So today we have in our podcast my friend Dan Hansen. I had the pleasure to meet him for many, many years. He's one of the agents, real estate agents here in the area that I admire personally and respect. He's got a great reputation in the community. So for me, it's an honor, it's a pleasure to have him here talking with us today about those issues, things that we face in the construction industry. Like I mentioned many times before, this podcast is basically thought for the construction industry, but since the real estate is part of the construction, houses needs to be built before they can be sold. So, let's introduce Dan. Let's ask him, hey, Dan, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Again, Dan Hansen. I am a realtor at Windermere Tri-Cities, and I'm glad to be here.
Very good. Well, we're excited to have you here. Like we're barely kicking off this podcast, and hopefully, we can make it big for people like us. Grinding on the business. So let me ask you, tell us a little bit of your background and why real estate.
Okay, so I have been doing real estate. I think I'm about the 10-year mark. I purchased my home. My first home I purchased was, I think, probably 2009. And in that experience, it really wasn't that good of an experience. So I was a little frustrated. I felt like I could have been guided a little bit better. At the end of the day, I got the house that I wanted, but I just didn't feel like I was helped very much. So I kind of did everything on my own, and I just thought if that is the standard of what a realtor does, I feel like I can make it better. I can make the experience better, give people more confidence in what they're doing is, buying one of their biggest investments. So, but even prior to that, I had a lot of retail experience, helping customers, and I just think that's really important. After that, I taught for about 3 years and enjoyed that, but I knew in the back of my mind after buying my first home that I think that I need to do real estate. And so I've been doing that for 10 years. I've really enjoyed it. And it's interesting because in the Tri-Cities, there's probably, 1,200, maybe up to 1,500 realtors in the Tri-Cities. And so it's like everyone knows probably at least 7 to 10 different realtors. But it's your typical 80-20 rule. 20% of the realtors do 80% of the business. So, and I think the ones that do good business are the ones that continue to do business. So my goal is to make sure that I walk hand in hand with my clients, whether they're buying or they're selling, all the way through. And I don't know if everyone's experienced in buying. I hear lots of stories where maybe they didn't have the best experience. So my goal in getting in real estate is making sure that anyone that I interacted with had the best experience. So.
Well, that's really good. And one of the points that you touched there was something that I personally think, and maybe with the experience that you have, maybe you can answer that or give us some info, maybe inside info. Why is that I think everybody that is going to buy a house, the process is so painful. I mean, if you have the money or you have the loan and you pre-approve and they tell you everything is good and then you're scheduled to sign the paperwork, and then right there before you, couple days or a day before you sign or even the same day, you get a call from somebody that, somebody missed this, and then you're not ready. We cannot sign today. I mean, I have bought like probably 4 homes in my life, and none of them, they've been a pleasant experience. It's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to buy another house. Sometimes you're like, oh, that process is like giving birth.
Yeah.
So painful. Why do you think is that?
So I think part of it is I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in buying a house, right? So I think your realtor is one of the people that helps kind of keep you on the pathway. Good communication, making sure that you're hitting timelines. But I think, we are there to help provide the steps. And so if you're buying a home, I'm going to remind you, hey, earnest money is due today. So maybe that's what held it all up. Hey, we never received earnest money. We're $5,000 short. Or you didn't turn all your bank statements into your lender to make sure. So those are things that I'm going to remind you. And I think a lot of times people will look at a house, tell their agent, hey, I want to buy this house. They write the contract, they send it in, and then they don't really hear from them anymore. So that was my experience. I thought it was really frustrating. So like I said, I had to kind of figure it out as I went, and luckily I was able to get the home on time. But yes, I've seen lots of people be delayed by 3 days, a week, maybe 10 days. So yeah, it is frustrating.
It is frustrating. And so I think personally, just like in any other business or trade, finding the right person, right, to help you in the process, the professional, because in any industry, there's a lot of us doing that kind of work, but not everybody is equal, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think finding the right professional to help you, and that's one of the things that I thought of you, because one of the things that I see, in when you sell a house, I don't see that many people doing that. You go back to your client, you give him some wine, some
Right.
flowers sometimes, I mean, to me, those are small details that leave like an impression on the person buying the house, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I work, with a lot of sellers. And so just to kind of like encapsulate everything. So really, I think of myself as during someone selling a house, I'm thinking of it as an orchestra, like everything that needs to go in. I'm the conductor, right? And I'm going to cue in. So
you're going to guide.
I'm going to guide. So the first thing I do, if you're going to sell your house, and not everyone does this, so this is just the way I do things. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm like, Israel, you need to sell your house. So I'm going to order a pre-inspection. I want to know what we need to fix before we sell the house, because guess what? The buyer is going to inspect it, and then we're going to be behind. So an effort to get ahead of everything and be transparent, we're going to do a pre-inspection. So we do the pre-inspection. I give you the list, right? And you say, I'll fix these 3 things, but everything else, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, so that's always up to you. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a cleaner, and I'm going to deep clean it. I want the house to look sparkling so that when we do get people in, it looks really good and people feel good about being in there. The next thing is that if we need to stage the home, we bring in the stager. I'm not a stager, so I don't know where stuff goes.
You bring an expert.
Exactly. Yeah. So I am queuing in. Like I said, I'm queuing in the inspector. I'm queuing in the cleaner. I'm queuing in the stager. Now my photographer, whatever else it needs. Sometimes it's window cleaning. And then I'm going to make the job easy for you, right? Because we have a lot of stuff in our house.
Yeah.
So what do we do with all that stuff to like appeal to the masses? So what I offer to my clients is I say, look, there's a lot of stuff. We need to minimize everything in here. A lot of people will say, let's get rid of the clutter. I don't like to call other people's stuff clutter, right? Yeah. So it's not clutter to them. So let's just minimize. So I offer 2 months of storage. So Israel, we got a lot of stuff in here. Why don't we get a storage unit for you? I'll pay for it, and we'll put it right in there. That way, everyone can start to see themselves in your house, because that's really what it is. It's about a feeling that you give. So we get all that. Now we're ready to go on the market, okay? So those are the things that I do. I think a lot of times most people will put a sign in the yard and take some pictures and then put it there without doing any of the prep work. So let me ask you a question. Do you know Smokey the Bear? You know who Smokey the Bear is, right? Okay, so what about, what a fireman does, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what does a fireman do?
Put out fires.
Right. What does Smokey the Bear do?
Well, he doesn't get burned.
Right? He prevents forest fires, because that's right on his hat, right? I prevent forest fires. So that's how I consider myself. I'm going to prevent anything.
Smokey the Bear here.
Right? So I'm going to prevent forest fires. So that's why I want to do the pre-inspection. That's why I want to get ahead of everything so you can fix it or have someone fix it for you and just make it that much easier. Because when someone's buying a house and they see all these issues and they're like, I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much. But the fact that you have now been proactive, right? Like they want to sell their house. You want to sell a house and you want them to buy it. You've been proactive. Not only have you been proactive, but you've been transparent. Hey, I know there's some issues with the house. It's a good house, and I fixed these things, but I can't fix everything. So, that's just part of home ownership, of buying a used house, right? You're going to have to fix some things. So I think you can do this in any business. I think you can be Smokey the Bear in any business.
I definitely believe so, yeah.
And a lot of that, I think you hit on it earlier, was communication. Mm-hmm. Just be transparent. Just communicate with your clients. So when we're selling a house, I think it's really important to be as transparent as possible. And remember, there's an agent. Like if you're buying a house and I'm selling a house, remember that both agents should work together. We don't have to be enemies. You want to sell a house, my buyer wants to buy the house. We should be able to work together. So we don't have to be against each other. Everyone wants to move forward. So instead of being adversaries, let's work together.
I feel like that's exactly what I've been telling people in construction. It's like painters. We're not competition. We're members of the same family, trying to accomplish the same thing. We started a business because we want a better life for our families. So communication, I feel. I have people here in my office before, sitting down, what kind of estimating programs we use, how we do things. They share with me. Now we're starting this communication across the board, And I see more benefits of doing that. Many people, I feel like they have in any industry, like on realtor. Oh, if I share my secrets, they're gonna go rich, and I'm gonna stay behind. I'm gonna go out of business. And I'm like, what secrets?
Yeah,
there's no secrets.
No.
But if you discover something that works for you, if you share it with others, believe me, they're gonna benefit from that. And our communities are going to benefit from that. If you take that to the grave, who's going to benefit from it?
Yeah.
So, on that same topic that you were saying about how you do the extra things for the homeowners, to feel good and say, you know what, let's sell the house. By taking those proactive steps that you mentioned, doing all those things. One of the things I feel like professionals, that's why we get hired by these people. Because somebody wants to sell a house and they have a lot of stuff on their home, and they're like, yeah, I feel kind of embarrassed. My house is not the prettiest, but I need to sell my house. Mm-hmm. I have a huge problem. I don't know where to start. And that's what you just mentioned right there, hit it right on the nail. And that's exactly what I think is when somebody hire me or hire you, it's because they have a need, they have an issue, they have a problem that we need to solve. And anybody that has a problem, they don't know how to, take steps forward, how to solve the problem. When somebody steps forward and says, listen, it's not that difficult. We got this. Don't worry about it. Yep. Can you imagine or you can imagine how that person feels inside? Like, oh, my God, I feel so great. This guy is helping me out.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I mentioned this for any professional out there. Like, if somebody calls you with an issue, with a problem, and you are providing this kind of services, and you go there trying to make money, but you don't want no problems. Just remember, that's why you're in business. If somebody calls you to sell the house, that's because he's got a problem. He doesn't know how to sell it.
Right.
Somebody calls me to paint the house or remodel something. They have a problem. They don't know how to do it, or they don't have the time. So it's my job. So the moment I take that on that project, I already have a problem to solve.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like a lot of professionals forget about that. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. As you're saying that, I'm thinking, when as professionals, regardless of the business we're in, once we stop thinking about ourselves and realize why we're doing it for the client, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's painting, it's not about me. Selling a house isn't about me and what I get out of it. Sure, I enjoy doing it. It makes me feel good, and there's some financial gain to it. But at the same time, like, it's not about me. I'm helping this person. And typically, when we're selling or helping people buy houses, those are life changes. One, it's a big stress. So I'm going to take as much stress off of them. And I will tell them this when we first meet. I want to take as much stress off of you and make it as easy. So let me be. Funny story is that I had a client who bought a house 5 years ago, and she reached out to me 2 days ago. Says, hey, we have lots of rain. I need a landscaper to come help me. My husband's out of town. Who do I call? So here's someone that I haven't even really interacted except for maybe once or twice a year since then. And she reached out. She trusted me enough, and that makes me feel good, is that she trusted me enough to reach out and be like, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? She's not looking to sell her house, but I want to be that source. I want to be that person that helps them solve a problem, whether it's selling a house or they just need to do some landscaping to fix the drainage in their yard, whatever it may be. So when we finish a transaction, that's the end of the transaction, but that should not be the end of the relationship. Yeah. It's something that I want to help along, for a longevity. The other thing is paying it forward, So someone taught me the things that I do,
Exactly.
and how clients should be treated and how. So now I enjoy helping new young agents, kind of like you said.
Yeah.
When I first got in the business, I felt the same way. Everyone was like, no, these are my secrets. You can't have these. And I was like, what? We're all in this together.
Out of business,
right?
If I share them with you.
Right? So, I've come up with things that I do myself. And I think branding and marketing are good, but I think the impressions you leave are the best branding that you can do. I don't put my name on a lot of different things because if they don't have the experience, if the experience wasn't good enough to remember my name, then maybe I just didn't do a good enough job. So you won't find a lot of stuff with my name on it. It's the connections that I make, the experience that they have. And when I tell them, oh, we need to minimize the stuff and get you a storage unit, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can afford. No, that's on me. I pay for that. And they're like, oh, really? Well, I don't have any boxes. Well, I'm going to bring you some boxes. And all of a sudden, they're like, no one's ever done this for me. Exactly. So, again, those are little things that make their job easy, because they already have enough stress to deal with. So now they can start packing. They can move it to the storage unit, and I'm going to take care of that for them.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I feel like as professionals in any industry, I think we kind of step away from that, start teaching, because we don't get younger every day that goes by, we're getting older and older. And I feel like any industry right now, everybody is complaining. Everybody is so tired, frustrated. There's not enough help. And I'm always asking that question, whose fault is that? Because we're not active training employees. Because we're scared that, as soon as I train them, they're going to go find somebody to work for or start their own business, and I'm going to lose a good employee. And I don't know, but in my mind, I feel like if I train one of these guys and they become better than me, a better businessman, great contractors, I'm always going to have somebody to call if I need help.
Yep.
Because they were trained by me. I trust them. In my community, if I trust and I feel like I'm the best contractor for you, if I train this guy the same way, I can tell anybody, and I can be sure that the community can hire these guys, and they're going to enjoy the service for them. So who loses? I feel like no one loses. Everybody wins.
Yep.
And I feel like in the construction industry, in any industry, we need to start being really teachers, leaders, not just because we say, oh, I heard that if I'm a business owner, I'm a leader. No, there's natural leaders.
Right.
And if you're not like a natural singer, maybe go to school and learn a little bit of it.
Right.
Same thing with leadership. You can learn it. You can work on it. But don't just pretend or think that you're a leader just because you yell at people, right?
Right. So, and I think, yeah, there's a lot of different leaderships. I think of it as, leadership being being a mentorship.
Yeah.
Find somebody. And actually, I think take it one step further. I think it's important for the young people coming up in whatever industry it is to go out and seek that mentor, someone that they look up to, because that's probably going to be the best connection. If I tell you, hey, I want you to follow this guy, like you may not have that connection, but if you're like, oh, but this guy is who I follow, I think that's important. So yeah, mentorship, and just, and that can be a slippery slope too, right? Because like you said, a lot of people think that they're leaders, and maybe they don't. When I first got in the business, I wasn't, we all start somewhere, we're all new, but what I would get is I would call someone and ask them a question, and they were like, well, I've been doing this for 20 years. Okay, and sure, a lot of people will do things for a long time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it right or they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so that's the hard part. So making sure that you're aligned with somebody that is a good representation.
I like to add on to that. When people tell me, I've been paying, I've been doing this for 15 years, and then you hire them, and then you see how poorly they do their job. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm not even being sarcastic, but I think you've been doing this 1 year, 15 times.
Yeah.
Because they didn't progress more than 1 year. Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about, because if I have a realtor here with us, many of us probably thinking, what does he think about the economy and interest rates, how difficult it's going to be for me in 2024 if I want to buy a house. And let's start with a person that have never bought a house.
Okay. So yeah, first-time home buyers, right? So, and typically, just like anything else, I'm just the conductor, right? So I'm going to queue in. So typically I queue in the lender at this point. Like, you want to buy a house? Let's go sit down with the lender. But I'll give you a brief idea of just my personal thoughts, not maybe anything that.
Correct.
We saw the interest rates spike, right?
Yeah.
And there's people that bought their home 2 years ago with maybe a 2.5, under 3%.
Really low. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we'll ever see that again.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a phenomenon, right? So
exactly.
I probably won't see that again in my lifetime. And a lot of people took advantage of that. Great. So, but people have short-term memory, right? So, well, I'm not buying my house until it comes back down to 3%.
That's what I hear a lot.
Right. Well, it may not do that again. So, but I remember and this goes a little bit further in history, but I hear of stories of my clients and like, well, these are great because when I bought my house, it was 12% or 18% or, so, if you look at the history of the rates, they're always going to go up and down.
Yeah.
So can you buy now and refinance later? Sure, you can do that. Just be smart about it. I think the rule of thumb is, and like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but the rule of thumb typically is if the interest rate doesn't change more than 1%, it's really not worth it. So if you buy at 6% and it drops down to 4.5%, that might be a good time, right? It's going to save you some money because it costs money to refinance. Mm-hmm. Okay, so interest rates, I think they're hovering 6s. You might find VA and FHA in the high 5s, low 6s. So still better than 8%. So, and I think when I bought my house, my very first home, I think I got it at about 5%. And that was in 2009. And then I refinanced it and got it down to 4.5%. And I think I did it one more time. So you can make it work for you. But here's what happens. So, right, let's say interest rates go down to, let's say, 4.5%, which is maybe 1.5%. That's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So let's say what do you think all the buyers that have been waiting, what do you think they're all going to go do? They're going to want to go buy, right? So now everyone wants that same house. Well, now you have multiple offers and people are paying more for the house because, well, I'm going to put some cash in to make my offer look better. So now we're back in the same boat that we were.
Yeah, wasn't that what was happening?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago or so?
So we're back in the same boat. So now the prices are climbing again really fast. Yeah. And do people overpay for houses? I guess. I mean, but if the house fits you and that's everything you want, then the value is different to everyone. It's not always a financial value, right? It's a location, it's the amenities, it's the features, so whatever it may be. But, some people will base it on finance and be like, well, I'm not paying that much for the house, but it has everything you want. Yeah. It's like, so. But yeah, I think when the interest rates drop, it could become a frenzy again where people are scrambling to go out and buy, and we're going to see lines at the door to get into the house, to look at it and put an offer. Or, I don't know if you remember this or if you heard of this, but people were buying houses not even looking at them.
Exactly. No, I know.
And that was like mind-blowing, right? Like, who does that?
It happened to me, before, I work in the construction industry, so I used to come across a great opportunity, and people said, we're going to list this house by, this weekend. So I used to go and talk to somebody, see if I can get some more money to buy the house. When I was on talking to that people, I get a phone call from somebody, oh, the house was already bought. I'm like, what? It's not listed. Yeah, but just like I knew, somebody else knew with money, and they come, before it got listed and bought the house.
Yeah.
So I got to start thinking like, man, we people that don't have the resources, basically we just don't have any chance now.
Yeah, it's hard.
And so this is you talk about the interest rates and everything. So what would you say, because I have my own opinion, right? But I want to hear it from you, about those people that I don't see. I see a lot of signs up there right now. People trying to sell their home. It seems like nobody is buying, because I think the main mentality or reasoning is, I'm going to wait until the housing market comes down, and then I'm going to buy my house. What is your opinion about houses actually coming down in price?
So I think prices have come down. If we look at prices from even a year ago, the average home prices dropped. I don't have the exact number, but somewhere in the high mid fours, now in the low mid fours. Yeah. So the average home price. But we ran into this a lot where, and I think you asked it a little bit earlier, the first time home buyer, right? Mm-hmm. Man, what a tough spot to be in.
Exactly.
Limited funds, and they're just starting out and they want that first home. They're either starting a family or they're just trying to get, some footing in the housing market, and they just can't compete. And so I think if the interest rates come down more and people start to put in these multiple offers, I think we're going to be in the same boat again where I guess I call it cash heavy. Someone who has the financing or the cash to come in, they're just going to scoop it up.
And it's going to make it really difficult for that first-time buyer that was waiting for a house, that don't have the money. And, a startup home in a $400,000, it's like, and you're working in, making not even $25 an hour. Yeah. That's going to be like almost impossible. And that's why I feel the pain from the young people, in their 20s, that I think they're losing hope.
Yeah.
Of one day owning their own home.
Yeah. And I think people have to get creative in ways that they can combat that. And we did see it a little bit, and not everyone's in the same position. But sometimes if they have family, mom and dad was able to help out, right? And if you can do that, if you have the opportunity to do that, or, and that can be, sometimes mom and dad would pay cash for the house, and we saw this happen a couple of times where mom and dad would pay cash for the house, and then son or daughter would pay them back, or mom and dad would take some money out of their house for the down payment, and then help gift some funds to them and help the process along. But yeah, it's a little frustrating, and I think that deters a lot of people, because if they can't buy it at this point in their life, at what point? Because they're always going to run into this. So it's really important that we figure out a way to kind of control that.
Yeah, I feel like if you really need a house, because to me, I mean, clothes, like a roof over your head, food, to me, those are basic things. And sometimes I just like blows my mind that those basic things that every human needs are the ones that everybody's, to me, abusing, making a lot of money off that, like a roof over your head. Every family needs a house. Yeah. And to me, it's like to be that expensive to start with a house, with a family, and then a home. I mean, it's like, it's another subject, but it's like there should be resources for it should be like just like in the Constitution,
Right.
You're right,
Right.
to have a house, and not just put it out of your reach.
Yeah.
But on that point, a lot of people, like I said, are waiting to buy. If they have the loan or they have the money, there's not going to be a perfect time, I don't think.
No.
And I wanna give you my opinion why I think the housing market will never come down. There's always going to stay, like you said, really, really out of our reach for this main reason. Before you sell a house, it needs to be built, right? It needs a contractor to build a house. Well, on the construction industry, what I've seen is a lot of people getting really tired. I've been talking to some of the residential contractors, and they've been telling me, I'm making the move over to the commercial because it's just like really bad. I mean, they use a word, that I don't want to use it right here. But they said, I'm out. I'm going to make the switch because, they deal with regulations from the states and that kind of stuff. And then just a nightmare that everybody, it's not happy, not putting the time to do quality work. So a lot of people are moving out of construction, and we don't see a lot of young people coming into the trades, learning, because they see parents, the contractors frustrated. Do you think they're going to go like, oh my God, my dad is always broke, tired, frustrated, talking bad about construction. I cannot wait to get into construction, build homes,
Yeah.
Of course not. They're looking for other revenues to go and start a career. So construction is like, this going down, to me, is sinking in quality, in help, in every way. So this is the point that I want to make. So every day in the United States, millions of kids are born in hospitals, right? And so in 20 years, 25 years, those little babies are going to need a house. And how many houses are built every single day for those babies?
Yeah, not enough.
Not enough. I mean, if you think on that way, it's like, houses, they're always going to be those few homes that are built. They're going to probably have thousands of people wanting that particular house, right?
Yeah.
So that house is going to be like so expensive, and it's going to be like a little gold mine, So I just want to get this point across because this is what I see in construction every day. And the logic tells me those people that I feel like they're dreaming, oh my God, I'm going to wait until the house market comes down and I can afford a house. Well, to me, I'm not, like you said, I'm not an expert on this field, but what I see on my own experience is like, I don't see that happening anytime soon, or in my lifetime at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I would say the good news for the Tri-Cities is I think the Tri-Cities has always been kind of a secret.
Yeah.
or maybe a forgotten place, right? Because if we look at it, Seattle, the home prices in Seattle, the home prices in Portland, even like the smaller communities like Hood River, Walla Walla, places like that where we've kind of been sheltered, and not since recently, maybe the last 3 or 4 years, people have been like, oh, I like that place. It has a river. It's got good weather. It's close to. So, and that was always my thing about what I liked about the Tri-Cities is that I like the small town feel, because at the end of the day, we're kind of a big small town, right? You can get anywhere still in about 25, 20 minutes. But if I want to, I can take a 3-hour road trip to Seattle, or I can take a 3-hour road trip to Portland and be in a big city.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I still get to come home to my small town feel. Right. So
Spokane,
Spokane, yeah, 2 hours.
Yep.
You know, so I think it's been the home prices here have jumped so much, or it feels like it has, because we've kind of been protected, and all of a sudden everyone's discovered it and been like, oh, this is a good place to live. So now everyone from everywhere else is coming here, spending money, paying cash maybe where they sold a place in Seattle, and they want to move. And so that's increased. But if you're from here, if you're from the Tri-Cities, it probably feels like it's gone crazy. So, but really, I think we're just playing catch up to maybe some of the other places.
Well, I seen that in California. I grew up in California, Paso Robles, and I saw that in the 90s, where people selling their homes, old homes. I used to talk people coming into like open houses, brand new homes, going for $180,000
Right.
at the time. And me and my wife, being locals here, they were like, "Oh my God, who is going to afford a house this expensive?" And old people used to come to us and say, they're not expensive. We just sold our 1900, house in LA for $600,000. And so we plan to buy 2 of these over here so we can rent them out. And I'm like, told my wife, see, that's a problem, because they're going to just increase the price on the houses here. And we started getting people from San Jose, LA, San Francisco, moving, buying properties there. So when I moved out of there in 2006, you cannot find a 3-bedroom home for less than $900,000. I run into a fixer-up, destroy house for $500,000, 2 bedrooms, small 2-bedroom and a bathroom that I need to completely remodel. But that was a fixer-upper for $500,000.
$500,000
Exactly.
to fix it up.
So
you've got to buy the house for $500,000, and then you've probably got to spend probably what, $50 to $100K to like get it to where you would like. Exactly.
So when I bought a house in Grandview, brand new, for $148,000. Versus what I was living, an average home was $800,000, $900,000. So over here for $148,000. So when I moved over here, I used to tell the local people, said, these prices are not going to stay forever. And they used to tell me, oh, no, over here nothing changes. I've been here all my life and never seen like houses increase on value. So, well, someday that's going to change, and we're going to regret it. Because just adding to what you said, a lot of times if we're being the local ones, seems like we're very naive. We're not seeing the real thing.
Right.
People from other parts, they seen what happened over there, and they're taking advantage of this. And we're the locals. We see things from a different perspective. Yeah. Oh my God, it's too expensive. Who is going to afford this kind of homes? I would never pay that kind of money for a home right here, And this is our city. This is where we live.
Yeah.
We're the ones, should be the ones buying, because we're from here. But that's the mistake that I see most people making,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, again, another double-edged sword of like, well, I would never pay that much for a house, but when it comes time for them to sell, what do they want to do? The people that were complaining about, like, I would never pay, now they want to sell, right? They want the most money that they can get. No one says, oh, you know what? I know it's worth $600,000, but I'll take $200 for it because I want, So no one ever.
I want to help
that.
somebody,
right? Right. So it is a double-edged sword, and there's good and bad in both of it, because those people that are able to make a lot on their home, they can go on and do other things, whether it's help their children or, I guess the other rule of thumb I always think of is like, for as many children as you have, it'd be nice to have a rental for each place. So, when they turn 18, you can either sell it or you can rent it and you can help pay for college, right? So if that's what they choose to do, or a trade school, right? We know trade school would be good. But yeah, I think we've been kind of a little bit of a secret, and people have now found out how appealing the Tri-Cities is, and the cost of living. At the end of the day, the cost of living is still a lot
affordable.
less here,
still affordable
than it is everywhere else. But how long will it be? I mean, we look at the growth, that
Yeah.
we've had in all the cities, Richland, Pasco, and Kennewick,
It's-
West Richland,
This morning I was thinking the same thing. And we have a lot of fog in the streets right now, and I just everywhere that I was trying to get a shortcut to get here faster, I was in traffic. I was like, oh man, this like we get traffic everywhere
Yeah.
now. It's growing. It's growing fast.
Yeah.
Now moving on into we talk about other things, but as far as is in your industry, real estate, homes and that kind of stuff, what kind of issues do you see moving forward? That in your opinion will make better for realtors and home buyers. Issues that is facing the real estate industry, and how can they be addressed in your opinion, if there's any?
So yeah, there's a lot of things that would be nice. I think it's important for whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seller or whatever it may be. I think a lot of people, and it's good and bad. I think a lot of people want to help their friends or their family members, right? And everyone has to start somewhere, but it's such a tricky question. So everyone wants to help, but making sure that the person that you hire, I think, like you got your first job. I don't know, was your first job through a friend or was it a family member that said, hey, I want you to paint my house, So, and you didn't have any experience. So I understand that we all got to start somewhere, but at the same time, like making sure that person understands everything, because there's a lot of people that were like, oh, I'm going to use my sister because she just got her real estate license, even though maybe she doesn't know what she's doing, and then it becomes a bad experience. Yeah. So whatever it is. So I think it's, I take every job, whether it's a buyer or a seller, I sit down with them and I'm interviewing. It is a job, and I'm hoping that they're interviewing more than one so that, they can see the comparison. Yeah, they can see the difference. And I don't win them all, for whatever reason. Maybe it's just not a good connection or whatever, and that's okay. But I think people get really frustrated in our industry when they don't get that client for whatever reason. They went with somebody else. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know, in every business, we don't get every single client, and I don't think we should expect that.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful, for, and I try to show that appreciation and thank my clients for using me and giving me the opportunity even to sit down with them and either sell their house, which is a big transition for them, or buy a house, So, I guess just making sure that you have someone that knows what they're doing and is going to be in your corner, making sure that they're doing the right job all the way from the beginning to the very end. And like I said, for me, I like to carry that beyond. So someone who reached out 5 years later and said, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
Not selling their house, just something that they knew that I could probably help them with. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're a realtor, you're young, I mean, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
But I think one of the biggest investments that you can do is learn from the experienced ones. Be humble enough,
Yes.
Listen, take notes. And if you can work with those people, and say, listen, can I come and see how you do things? I would like to learn from you. I mean, I work for you. I'll be with you, helping you for free for 3 days or a week. I feel like doesn't have any numbers, no price, a price number to the value that you're going to get for their experience. And then nothing just happens, by coincidence. You have to actually take the action and build something. And if you want to build a reputation, nobody else is going to build it for you. Right. You're going to have to take action and learn from the good ones. And then, I want to say trim it, to the fit your personality, and build your own personality. Don't be like anybody else. You don't want to copy anybody or be original.
Right.
But build a reputation, the character, the people can trust you. And I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, but be there, be responsible, and like you said, I like what you mentioned, like you being proactive, doing extra things that some of the people in the industry when I hear this and they're going to go, well, that's not necessary to do. I wouldn't do that. That costs more time and more money.
Right.
But those are sometimes the things that you have to build in the beginning, right? To do in the beginning to build something.
Yeah.
So people can trust you. And then once you have the reputation, you're not going to go looking for those clients. They're going to come and looking for you.
Right.
But that takes time. I mean, I've been in my business for 20 years, and I feel like I'm barely getting some results, after this long time. So a lot of times, I talked in other episodes in Spanish, with how people from this continent, we start a business and we expect results in 6 months. Right. And if I don't see results in a year or 2 years, this is not working. I'm just going to go do something else. Versus the Japanese, over there, they see a business like they see a baby, having a baby. It takes a long time to develop.
Yep.
So my advice also for any professional, any young people up there in any trade or any profession is like learn from the good ones, take notes, and be patient. Build something. Build your character, your reputation, build your business, your brand, and then let it happen, right?
Right.
Let it happen.
And that's the hard part, right? So, like you said, we don't learn to run right out of the womb, right? Crawl, we scoot, we crawl, and then we walk, and then we run. And it takes a long time to learn that. And so it could take years to do that, but it's so easy to lose that reputation. So when you talk about reputation, it's like make sure that you're consistent, in a good way to commit to that, because it really you start cutting corners because you've now I'm here, and then you start cutting corners. It's easy to slide backwards. So I think it's always continued education, an open mindset to learning new things. Like I have young people that come into the business that, I help either train or mentor, and I'm learning things from them. I'm keeping an open mind because, maybe my clients are more to their age, and I need to be able to relate to those people. So, yeah, I think keeping an open mind, building that good reputation, and then being consistent, I think is really important.
Good. So a little bit on that note, for those young people out there that they're considering thinking, crossing their mind, like coming into the real estate, being an agent, realtor, is it still a great opportunity for those people to come into the industry, or there's no future, is saturated, or what advice would you give to those people?
So this is one of my favorite questions because I'll go around to some of the high schools and talk to the young people in classrooms, and everyone watches Selling Sunset or whatever it is, and it's so glamorous, right? And it's like, oh, their fancy cars and their fancy clothes and their fancy house. Okay, well, we know that that's reality TV, right? Which isn't always true in a sense. Okay, so I think when the market is tough and if you have grit and you're willing to put in the time, I think when the market's soft and slow, I think that's the best time to get in, and for a couple reasons. Your expectations of what you're going to produce, they're a little bit less, which is good, and it lets you kind of fine tune the things that you want to put in place. So when I got in the business, it was by chance. I shouldn't say that, not by chance, but it was very deliberate on what I wanted to do. But the market was very similar to what it is today, 10 years ago. So very similar, where houses sat on the market for 45 to 60 days, which means if I put a sign in the yard and I'm selling the house, I don't get a paycheck until that house is sold. Yeah. So I'm not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks or once a month, or when the house sells, that's when I get paid. Mm-hmm. So that can be kind of scary, right? So yeah, I would say now being able to learn everything and fine tune, get good mentorship, get good training, and then that way when the market does get busy, You've trained for that.
Yeah.
But no one I can't imagine that anyone would win their first 100-meter race the first time they go out and do it, right? They had to go out and practice.
Exactly.
If you just showed up at the starting line,
Yep.
train it. It's and I guess it's not even a sprint. It's a marathon. You've got to be able to put in. Now, I hear people use that cliche a lot, like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Sure, but you can still run at a pretty good clip for a long time, right? You can still run pretty quick for a long time. So just making sure. And people that are getting in the industry, I think now's a great time. I think a lot of, this is a very broad stroke, but I think you can do that much to stand head and shoulders over a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but I think a lot of people. So the little things that I do, so for example, I told you the pre-inspection, the storage unit, the staging, the photography, the cleaning. So when you sell your house, here's how I'm going to make it even more simple for you. I'm paying for that stuff. You don't have to pay, because people, I'll say that stuff and like, well, we can't afford it, cleaners.
Yeah.
We need to sell our house because we're tight on money, or I can't stage it. Staging's $2,000 to stage a house.
Yeah.
Like so I'm going to make it really easy for you. I'm going to pay for it. That's I'm investing in your house.
Yeah.
I'm investing in me. Like if I don't sell it, I don't get that money back. So those are the little things. So if you're getting in the business, it can be somewhat expensive, but I think if you're getting in the business, if you're thinking of getting in the business, I think you should put whatever you see on TV, put that out of your head.
Yeah.
Get ready to grind, and I think you have to do 2 feet in. A lot of people will like, well, I'm going to keep my other job, right? So now you're in the middle of the road. What happens to people that stand in the middle of the road?
They run over.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm doing this job and I'm doing this job and I'm selling real estate. You call me and you say, hey, I want to look at this house. And I've got a limited time. I can look at it at 2:00. Oh, I don't get off till 5.
Yeah.
So how about 5? Oh no, I got to work the night shift. Well, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to call somebody else.
Exactly.
So I think it's important for people to, now, do people make it work? Sure. Some people can balance the two, but this is all I do. Day in, day out, suit up, and
This is your business.
this is my business. And if you want to do it as a part-time, then make sure that it's clear to your client, like, hey, I'm only available
Yeah. From this time to this time.
from this time. But for anyone that calls me, based on my schedule, on what I have going, in the business, like, this is what I do. So
Very
be
good.
committed to it.
Exactly. And I like the point that you mentioned, like when you come in tough times, maybe you're not going to be too busy. It's time to prepare yourself to be creative. I think that's one of the biggest things. We got all the resources, all the tools right here. And about thinking how you need to do things, I think is a big thing. Thinking and then implementing creative ways. And we don't have to be the same. I mean, all the good things that work for you, not necessarily a young, a professional coming into the industry. They don't have to do it on the very first times, But maybe they can be creative and do different things that you just give them some ideas. You know what? I think this can work for me. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's why we would like to talk about these issues, these things, things that we need to implement, things that we need to correct in these industries, because at the end of the day, we want the same thing.
Yeah.
We want a better life. We don't want stress. We want to enjoy what we do. We want to serve our clients the best way possible. And I feel like as humans, that's what we enjoy the most. Not what's the word? Letting people down instead of helping people. When we help somebody, we get that non-monetary, reward, but the benefit, we feel great. And I feel like if all the professionals up there and kind of, if they're like set on money, switch it to the other benefit, just the value that you're providing, the benefit that you're getting from providing value to people. Maybe that'll make you happier.
Yeah. I
'Cause
agree.
with money, it's not necessarily everything. It's very important, but not it's not going to give you happiness. Happiness comes from your mindset, your beliefs, your principles, right?
Yep.
From helping their community.
Totally agree with that. Sometimes, I know it sounds weird, and I wasn't sure. I'm glad you said it, because I wasn't sure, and maybe it's just a naive thought, but I wasn't sure if anyone else felt that when you finish the job that you were hired to do, and you feel it, and you see what it brings to your clients, like, I always felt like that was kind of a selfish feeling of how good it made me feel.
Yeah.
So, it's good to know that other people feel that too. And I think at the end of the day, that's why we do what we do, because part of it's the passion, but part of it's like the feeling that it makes us. So the monetary part, I feel like, is just kind of the byproduct, and that's kind of what we need to survive.
Yeah.
But that feeling that you get.
And I want to, like, say it openly to people that know me, my clients. I hate painting.
Yeah.
I'm really good at doing it, but I never saw myself, on the painting career, painting for the rest of my life. And for many, many years, I always was questioning myself, what can I do other than painting to make money and support my family? Finish carpenter, that's without a trade that I'm really good at. I was a journeyman, a finish carpenter, and it was like, they don't pay well, And then I'd be looking at all the trades, and you go back to painting. And I was like, when somebody calls me to paint a house, I have to paint the whole house. More volume, square footage, so that gives you a little more money. And I'm like, always come back to like, well, of all the trades, I feel like painting is not bad, you know. And then I tried to, for many, many years, kind of like finding a way out of doing something else. Until the one thinking, I came to this conclusion. Then why keep painting? Why I keep in construction when I'm having such a hard time, with not with the work itself, but sometimes on the people, contractors keep people in front of you with the schedules and all that stuff. Sometimes, honestly, I feel like some of these people up there are like kindergartens running these projects, right? They don't know what they're doing, honestly. And so I feel like, do I love that? No, I hate that. Then why I get the benefit? Where's my benefit coming from? And then I just realized that I like to help people. Mm-hmm. When I go and paint a house, a wall or whatever we do, a staircase, and the homeowners, they're like, oh my God, it looks so beautiful. This is the best part of my house. I feel like $1 million guy.
Right.
Feel so great that they feel great. And then I realized, okay, this is what I like. I always find myself trying to protect older couples, from an estimate on the back of the car.
Yeah.
I explain and I go by every single thing that I said I'm going to do, I do for them. And then I tell them, it's your money, it's your house. If you want to hire anybody, you're free. I'm just legitimately concerned about you, because I will do everything that I said I'm going to do and a little more to protect you. I feel like my need to protect you.
Yep.
And so that's my thing, is like when you said, I feel like all the good professionals up there, we have to care.
Yeah.
We have to care. Otherwise, let's not do this. And I feel like I just want to share that little experience, with you about me. I don't feel ashamed. I don't feel embarrassed to say it, because I realize that's what I enjoy doing, helping others, helping people. That's why when I paint your house, my goal is for you to feel great, because if you feel great, I'm going to feel great. Right. And if you don't feel good, believe me, I feel terrible.
Right.
So nothing to be ashamed about, to feel good helping our customers, I say.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I've referred you, and so on that one, you probably got double bonus, because I was excited that you were able to help my client. And so it made me feel good, like, oh, I know that he's going to get taken care of, because
he's in good hands.
Yes.
He's in good hands.
Yeah. So that's, that's always nice. And so to build my book of business with people, so anyone that I refer, like, in the business, and I do this over time. And like you said at the very beginning, I couldn't provide everything at the beginning, but slowly and surely I knew what I wanted to do. And I had this vision of like I wanted to do, and I slowly worked towards it. So now I can provide those things for my clients to make their life easier. And then my book of business, as far as like who I refer, I tell my clients right off the top, like the inspector, whether it's a lender, whether it's the cleaners that I use or the painter that I use, anyone who I refer you to, I want you to think of them as an extension of me.
Yeah.
Like the way I treat
They're
you.
representing you.
Yeah, the way that I treat you, Israel, I'd like you to help them paint their house or fix their bathroom, whatever it may be. You're going to treat them the same way. So you're an extension, like you said, you're an extension of me. And so everyone that I refer, I have used personally. So I know the expectation, So, and I think that's important because a lot of times I think people, like yesterday, for example, or the other day when someone called me for helping them in their yard for landscaper, I knew who I wanted to call. And so I was able to make sure that they're in good, like you said, they're in good hands instead of just like, okay, who can I call?
Exactly.
So I've had that personal experience with them.
That's great. And you mentioned, a couple of seconds ago, like a book of service. And so I want to ask you, I like to ask everybody that comes to share with us any particular book, if you have one, that actually you really enjoy and that really changed your mindset, kind of help you, guide you. Because I think most of us have that particular book that kind of hit right on the right spot and put us on the right path, to start changing our lives. Do you have any book that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I kind of have
books?
Yeah, I have a couple. I'm reading one right now. In fact, it's in the truck. I almost brought it in. But it's, I'm trying to think the name off the top of my head. Anyways, he's a RE/MAX agent and started very young, kind of and I connected with the book, so I saw right away, started with not a lot and kind of worked his way through, and now is the number one RE/MAX realtor in the nation. So I thought, okay. And that's the other thing. I don't need to be number one. I just want to do good business, and I want to make sure that my clients are taken care of. So I don't need to have the most sales or the most, because I always think, man, if you're doing that much business, like I don't know that I could pay attention to my clients as well.
To the details.
The details, yeah. So luckily I have someone that works for me, with me, and shoulder to shoulder, so I'm able to do a little bit more. But yeah, so the other one, the book that I probably get the most out of is, it's a real estate book, but you can use it towards any profession if you really digested it and looked at it. And it's Ninja Selling. So author is Larry Kindle, and it just, like, if you really like look at it and break it down, you can apply it to just about any business.
Yeah.
And it's basically relationship building and selling. And whether you are selling something or you're just building relationships, it works great. So, and it's one of those things that I don't know that we'll ever perfect because people constantly change, or you're working with different people, but it does give you a really good, breaks down the science of it, of like working with power people or party people or perfection people, things like that. And then it hits on a lot of things.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And we'll probably put the name of it later. We'll look for it and put the name of it so people can, if they want to read it or buy it.
Great book for someone who wants to get in the business and is wants to have a vision of oh, this is what I want my business to look like. So
very good. Well, we really enjoy having you here, conversation,
Thanks for having me.
You sharing that valuable information with us and with people that are going to listen to this podcast. Hopefully we accomplish that, touching some great points. And, from here, everyone need to make the decision if they want to buy a house or you're in the profession, any profession. Hopefully we can touch some of the things and we make you think, and so you can spend some time thinking about how you're doing things, how you're helping others. And if you're not completely happy, take some time and instead of thinking I'm going to quit, I think I'm going to, focus on the positive things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And most of the times, most of us, we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for helping others because we want to leave. We feel the need to leave a little change in the world when we're gone, leave this world a little better than when we found it. I feel like that should be our mission, and everyone can contribute. So, but in construction and most of the retail, residential, whatever you call it, the mindset that most of us all over the world, not only in one part of the world, and all over the world seems to be set and locked into negative thinking.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is very important, having professionals, how we deal with these things, how we see them every single day. And I feel like the need to start a conversation to make us think that, hey, the only way you're seeing those things is because you're looking at those things. Right. Hey, look the other direction. On the positive thing, it'll cost you the same energy.
Yep.
But maybe you get different results. It was a pleasure, Dan, talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.